Welcome, my friend, to Next Level Change Success, a change conversation for leaders, project and change practitioners for today and tomorrow. My name is Therese Perez of myvirtualchangemanager.com, and I'm an experienced change and project professional and people leader with many years of experience in the industry. I love business, and I love the people side of business especially. So nothing lights me up more than seeing people use change management, project management, and strong change leadership to engage, motivate, and inspire people, and ultimately transform organisations. If you've heard about change management and have no idea of what it involves, then you're in the right place. If you know about change management, but you want to take your practices to the next level, then this is where you should be. I'm going to share the stories of my experiences, interview some fantastic people, and I'm going to explore all of the challenges and opportunities that you face in organisations right now. So please join me and let's go and have some fun. Hi, and welcome to Next Level Change Success. My name's Therese Perez, and I'd like to acknowledge that I'm recording on Tharawal country today. Today's interview is with Sarah Robertson. What strikes me about the interview with Sarah today is her constant curiosity. And so it's no surprise that she's working with leaders around strategy, how that works, culture, and leadership. And I was very glad when she said yes to come and speak on the podcast, because I think there's some very thought-provoking conversation today around the challenges for leaders today in relation to strategy, but also in relation to the challenges they have and the reasons and excuses potentially they have around why they don't actually step into the strategic space as much as they potentially would like, or some just simply don't like going into that space. Anyway, not going to say much more. Have a listen, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks, Sarah, for making the time to speak to me and to come on to Next Level Change Success. Appreciate your time. I'm very keen to chat to you about strategy today. So we're talking all things strategy. And I think this is really kind of relevant nowadays. There was a lot of themes coming through in the back end of last year around the economic pressures that organizations are under post-COVID, post-pandemic. And I think it's having a lot of organizations revisit strategy, and they're doing it pretty regularly. So it'd be great to talk to you about the work you're doing with leaders and at all levels, I suspect, of organizations around this strategic mindset, what it entails, the coaching that you put into place, and some key takeaways for the people who listen to this podcast, most importantly, so that they can get to it around developing a strategic mindset.
Yeah, absolutely.
First question, though, is a bit around your story of origin, because I jumped onto your LinkedIn, saw your background. We have worked together, and I've been very grateful for the coaching you provided me in my career, and just around the science side of things and how science then leads through to the business side and the strategy and culture.
Yeah, a lot of people don't notice that science background part of it. It's quite buried, I think, in my profile. So yeah, I did start life as a scientist. It's all part of the same mindset, right? It's that questioning, being curious, trying to look at what works, what doesn't, and trying to always get to that deeper, what's the real truth that we're trying to uncover here? What's really going on? That is science. So it's the same mindset. It's also strategy and, how organizations work and how you're, reacting with the market. So it's all the same sort of thing. Yeah, my science was quite at a reasonably deep level, did a PhD in cell biology. And again, it's just that the idea that you can get down to the smallest unit of biology in the human body, a cell, you can't take it out of its context. And it's the same with leaders and organizations and markets. It's that interconnectedness. So the sort of fascination I have with whether it's a cell or an organization or a leader, by everything in its ecosystem, and one impacts the other. And it's that sort of dance of the two things. It just plays out in all those different arenas. So I think that's where it was sort of my way of thinking about things that pulled me from science through to business. Business to me was just another thing to explore and get curious about. And, I started off in biotech because my science background took me there. So I started in very, very small organizations, getting them ready for IPO, and then moved to the opposite, like the world at the time's biggest organization, GE. And yeah, I was just deeply fascinated by how does this work? And yeah, just kind of got curious all the way through my career, and then the Accenture, Boston Consulting Group, and have changed countries as I've gone along as well, which has given me, I'm just really, really grateful of the opportunity to live abroad. It was something I always had intention to do. But it's the same thing, isn't it? It's just being deeply curious about, so what's it like in this country? And just like, taking that curiosity with you wherever you go.
Absolutely. I think also too that moving abroad into other, not just organizations, but obviously other countries gives you a whole new layer of understanding around culture and the meaning of culture, because you're exposed to so many variations, and understanding that and applying that within an organization is very similar around the departmental microcultures that exist. And certainly from the curiosity perspective, I think there's a lot in the Adam Grant. Adam Grant's starting to bring that really to the fore around having the mind of a scientist, which is that curiosity piece that you talk about, which definitely challenged some of my belief systems around science when I was such a people-based oriented person, and then realizing actually it's good to be in that space of testing a hypothesis rather than leaping to conclusions and assumptions, and have that curiosity even deepen further. So
Yeah.
kind of lends itself well to that. And then in the world of strategy, why would people consider strategy to be important, do you think? And why are people?
Yeah, because in today's world, right, there's so many things any business can do at any one point, so many things. So you can take a scattergun approach and do pretty much everything, which a lot of businesses do, try and just do a bit of everything. Or you can make some choices and do this and not that. So that is strategy, making those choices. So if you're being strategic, you're comparing yourself to people who are being not strategic, you're always going to be more successful. Because you've made some decisions about things. Whether that is the right strategy or not, we don't know, right? There's no way of knowing whether a strategy is going to make you successful. It's a hypothesis. You put a bet on it, and you think, with all the thinking and analysis we've done, we think this is the best route. But then the most important thing is you're learning from it. So you pick a path, do the analysis, do the, good decision making, but you pick a path, you place your bet, and then you monitor it straight away. Is this actually working out? And you'd be ready to pivot. So it's a learning process. So without a strategy, you can't be a learning organization, really, because it is a learning process. You learn from the decisions that you took. If you do a scattergun approach, you're not making decisions. You're just doing everything. You're not learning anything. So that's one reason, is that you've got so many choices. You have to make a decision. You haven't got enough budget and people to do everything. Secondly, you become a learning organization. Thirdly, if you're not doing strategy and you're doing this scattergun, do a bit of everything, or just kind of do the same as, at least one of your competitors is being strategic. And you might not know it now, but the results will play out. So, you're opening yourself up to sort of losing market share or whatever. And then I think the other reason, the fourth reason, lastly, is more about the person. If people want to develop in their career, and I talk to leaders more and more about this, they need to be thinking strategically. I don't know whether it's fair or right, but the higher paid positions, more senior positions in an organization, always require vision and strategy to some level. And we've almost created a problem by ourselves in doing that, which we'll come to later, with leaders who struggle with that. But you want to progress in your career, then upwards is almost always about vision and strategy.
And then how do you go from operational into a more strategic thinking role? How do you develop that strategic mindset? Is it something you can learn, must be something you can learn, right? Versus actually people are just born as strategic thinkers? Or do you find in your work that it can be a bit of both? That some people naturally have it, some people need to develop it and work harder at it.
Yeah, look, I think it's that. I never think that there's anything we can't do. I think there's things that we generally enjoy more, and we probably enjoy them more because it just suits our way of thinking. And so we do more of it and we get better at it. And so we do more of it, and it goes on and on and on. And we become that way of, our careers take a certain direction. So there are people who perhaps don't enjoy it, that's for sure. And, something like the Myers-Briggs type indicator, the big picture N versus the detailed S type, there's a natural thinking style. You can't think big picture and detail at the exact same time. So we gravitate to one or the other, but that's not to say we can't develop the other. And also strategy is not a sole sport, right? It's a team. You need a team. It's collaboration. It's diversity of thought process. So even if a leader doesn't feel they are visionary and strategic. It's, well, can you develop a team around you and ask the right questions?
Definitely. So some interesting kind of techniques that people could bring into their ways of working to help develop that as well, right? Around the collaboration aspect, focusing on, in particular, really honing in on diversity of thought and welcoming that and creating the right environment for that can also develop and support a person in that strategic planning, I guess, or strategic development as well. So what are the themes currently that leaders are challenged with? Are there any themes coming up from a strategy development perspective that are just recurring that most leaders are coming across?
Yeah. So firstly, that leaders call a plan strategy.
I just used it there. I said strategic plan.
So yeah, the word strategic, like I myself use that word as well,
Hmm.
because we use it all the time, right? It's just general business talk. But really we have to get clearer on what is a strategy, and you can have a plan to achieve that strategy. But a strategic plan is not in place of a strategy. A strategy is a set of very clear integrated choices. We have a big vision, a big goal, we have something we want to achieve. Here is ways we think we can do it. Here's how we leverage what we're really good at. Here's how we build it and make that better than it could be without, all the systems that we have in place. A strategy is a very clear, articulated set of choices, and they reinforce each other. 2 + 2 is 5 in a strategy. A plan is a laundry list of things that would probably be really good to do. Like that, most strategic plans have some pretty good stuff on it, good to do. Doesn't add up to anything that gets you where you need to get to. It's just a to-do list. And there's nothing wrong with a to-do list, but we shouldn't pretend it's a strategy. It doesn't convey a unique competitive advantage. You don't look at a strategic plan or this list and go, okay, that's why this company is going to be so successful. It doesn't have the logic.
The intersection between culture and strategy. Being a change kind of oriented person, I would talk a lot about culture. And I know we talked about the culture, eat strategy for breakfast catchphrase that everyone uses, yet both need to exist. So how do they interplay? How do you see that kind of working together?
Look, so I think, the options are you have a good strategy and a bad culture, or a bad strategy and a good culture. Ideally, of course, you want both. And if you have a new strategy, you're probably going to have to tweak your culture. Probably, not always, right? But you have to cast a lens over it and go, is there something here we need to change? But let's say you have the way I was thinking it through is like you have a bad strategy and a good culture, then your good culture will enable people to put their hands up and say, look, this isn't working. This doesn't make sense. And you'll have leaders who will listen, and you'll have those channels that will enable that two-way dialogue. There'll be respect for all voices. So those people who are going on the edges and seeing something different and going, look, guys, this isn't the right way forward. We've got to take notice of this. They will be heard. There'll be these processes for that. So there's that engagement of people in a good culture where they want to say if this is working or not. So you can have a bad strategy with a great culture, but you probably won't get far with it before people put up their hands and go, hold on a minute, this isn't right. So you'll change, and you'll be an agile kind of change-oriented organization with a good culture. You'll get yourself a good strategy at some point. So I think, yes, you can have that, but you won't have it for long. So the culture will hold you in good stead. The other way around, you have a good strategy and a bad culture. Well, I just don't think you get off the starting blocks, because you can have all the cleverness in a strategy and it can be amazing. But at the end of the day, if people aren't going to execute it, it's not going anywhere, right? If you've got a culture that's not engaged, people are not clear on what they need to do, they're not rewarded in the right way, they're not recognized, they're not included, no strategy is going to work.
And it seems to have a lot of reliance on that leadership, like the leadership cohort, the leadership level. They both create an environment in which their people can thrive from a psychological safety, like creating a learning culture, but also their own discomfort. Do you come across discomfort around talked about the word you use, like, it's a bit of it's a bet, you place your bets, you move, and then you learn, and you learn to adjust as you go along. There feels like a level of discomfort with that for leaders that they have to be comfortable with, because it is uncertain, informed, but uncertain. Is that where you also coach around when it comes to a strategic mindset, is being comfortable in the discomfort?
Yeah, absolutely. Comfort in the discomfort, comfort with ambiguity. comfort in having that future forward mindset as opposed to status quo mindset. We get lulled into a status quo mindset, thinking status quo means it will always be this way, but it doesn't. It just means that's right now. Futures are always different, no matter how how you're going to look at it. So yeah, there's a lot of challenge around that. The biggest challenge there is probably about leaders just not lifting their heads up, not feeling they've got the time and space to actually even consider thinking strategically, just too busy. So I always start there with the leaders. It's this clear your desk to enable you to have space and time to think strategically. Because at the end of the day, the more senior you are in an organization, really that's your job. You're getting paid for that level of thinking. And so often I see leaders, especially at that critical part where they're moving from maybe managing teams to leading. And that's a really big step because that's a mindset shift that they need to make. And not everyone's comfortable with that. So we see a lot of leaders who are still very much pulled down with the operational and the technical. And, I hear excuses for it. I don't have time to be strategic. My team aren't at the level that they need to be in order for me to delegate and hand off. Stakeholders come to me because I can answer the question, solve the problem, do whatever it is really quickly and efficiently, and they still trust me. And some of these are true. And if they're true, that's your responsibility as a leader to sort it out. Get a training place for your people, delegate effectively. Let your stakeholders know that you're not the person they come to anymore. There are very simple ways of working that through. So sometimes it's as simple as that. It's just, okay, get a plan, sort that out, and then start to think strategically. But often there's a fear factor in that. Often it's, fear that they can't think strategically, or, that they've been promoted on very good operational, very good technical results. And then what if they can't do really well with strategy and vision? It's scary. No one actually, very few people spend that time helping leaders transition that. And it's a really hard time for leaders. Even those that know how to think strategically and it just comes naturally to them, even they struggle because it's a real shift. It feels like you're not doing work anymore because you're spending a lot of time thinking about the future. And that's uncomfortable because we feel we need to be busy because we've been busy all our career. So there's a lot of things going on that really hinders leaders getting off to a flying start at that pivotal time when they get promoted or they move into a higher level job. And then sometimes, really honestly, and we're probably not honest as we should be in organizations, but we take a promotion knowing or at some point realizing that actually we don't enjoy that part of work. We actually enjoy fighting and problem solving. And look, nothing wrong with that. And as organizations, we should be able to reward people substantially for the technical and the operational, because otherwise we keep promoting people who actually want to be in the technical and operational, are great at technical and operational. We need them to be technical and operational, but they get promoted because there's more prestige and salaries and opportunities, if they start to be in these strategic roles. But if you don't love thinking that way, then you're not going to love the job. And that comes up time and time again.
Yeah, that is interesting because it seems like there is a bit of almost like an opt-out that tends to happen in people's careers at some point for various reasons around that, getting to a role that they don't necessarily enjoy and they want to go back to something they enjoy more, which necessarily hierarchy isn't a step up, is, kind of more the step back, but better for the individual because they enjoy it more. So be interesting if there were more conversations in organizations prior to promotion around being able to identify whether the person actually wants to progress versus what do they enjoy and matching more what they enjoy so that they're successful, the organization's successful, etc. Yeah. There's a few things just around insights and recommendations, the takeaways for people. What can people who are listening to this podcast, if they're in a position of leadership or even if they're not, how they can start to develop a bit of a strategic mindset, develop that muscle for themselves?
One of the really useful and I think often not done bits of thinking is around what makes your business special. What is it? What is at the heart of what makes your business special? And so many organizations, people in the organization, they don't do that real level of deep thinking. So I think understanding the specialness of your business, understanding your strategy is one thing, any leader in any organization. If it's a good strategy, then the specialness of your business is written into it. If it's not a good strategy, then that's two separate questions. And that's, what is your strategy and what is the specialness of your business? Because really your strategy should be built on the specialness you have today or the specialness you are very intentionally building for the future. So, that's the starting point for where you're at right now as a leader in an organization. How well do you understand that? Then I think it's don't confuse strategy with a plan. A plan is certain and sure, and you can do it. You just put some milestones on it, get the budget, and your plan will take place. A strategy is a bet. It's a very clear set of choices, and there is no certainty to that. It's just the thing you think is going to make most sense and probably be the best option. And being okay with that, that it's not certain, and just, seeing them as two different things. They're two different mindsets, and we feel different levels of comfort with both of those. And then the third thing, I think, is that pulling yourself out of the weeds. And if you're not pulling yourself out of the weeds, questioning really honestly, why aren't you? And be honest, it's okay to not want to do this sort of work. People have very successful and good careers not wanting to do this sort of work. And it's okay to feel that you don't know how to do it. These are all learnable. And you surround yourself with a team who can help you as well. So, but the first part is like, why are you not pulling yourself out of the weeds? Really understanding that.
And then, so Sarah, what does 2024 bring for you? What's in line with for you this year?
So, working with strategy and culture and leaders, I of course have walk the talk with my own business quite a lot. So I have a different strategy to a lot of people in my situation. I have a strategy of radical automation. So everything back office in my business is radically automated. I will use AI. I look at every opportunity to automate something. So that's my first question on something is how do I automate it? Because my time is my biggest resource. Yes, that's my resource. So I actually just put in quite a bit of new automation into my business over the end of the year, and still tweaking that and sorting that out and getting that up and running. And then I'll look at the next piece because with the advent of AI now, there's a lot you can automate in what is effectively a really small business such as myself. So I'm fascinated by what is that level of automation that I can put into my micro business just as much as a global enterprise can put into their business. There is really no difference in what we can start to automate in the back office. And that's an amazing, it's an amazing opportunity. It's an amazing time to be a small business.
Yeah, it actually is a fascinating landscape, and one I think is this ongoing learning curve across all businesses. Absolutely. And as you said, small or large, there's no denying that landscape can add value, especially when, as you talked about before, everyone's kind of caught in the weeds, don't have enough time. It says, low-level tasks need to become automated, but also there's a huge amount of intelligence opportunity and modeling that can happen. I was just talking about it recently in my world, just around the potential of that landscape and how it can be utilized and worked with and partnered with to really get the best opportunities and intel really and modeling for organizations more broadly, which can help inform strategy or can help inform good, smarter decision making because it's all heading down that automation route. And then how do people find you, Sarah, if they want to get in touch with you? So do they jump on your website?
Yeah, so it's sarahrobertsonconsulting.com. My strategy is to only use LinkedIn as a sort of tool to reach me other than my direct website. So you can find me on LinkedIn at sarahrobertsonconsulting.com on LinkedIn and Sarah Robertson Consulting on LinkedIn. I put a lot of the things that we've talked about in this podcast. A lot of those are written into my blogs and the ideas and how to be more strategic, 10 ways to demonstrate strategic thinking and examples of organizations that have created interesting strategies. So more information on that. And I also link it to leadership and I link it to culture quite a lot. The three are inseparable, right? So reading my blog posts, you'll get a flavor for the sort of work that I do and hopefully find it interesting.
Fantastic. And so I hope to speak with you again because I know it'd be great to talk about culture. It's an area of passion of mine, obviously, but also thanks for your time today talking about strategy. And I look forward to continuing the conversation sometime later this year.
Yeah, me too. That would be great, Therese.
Thanks,
Thank you
Sarah.
so much.
And there you have it. Thanks, Sarah, for the time you spent with me, and I look forward to interviewing with you again soon on other topics. And I hope you have a good day. Come and visit us at myvirtualchangemanager.com for more information, tips, and tricks. We have new things happening all the time. You can find me on YouTube, Change Chats with Therese, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and on my website. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you tune in again to the next episode of Next Level Change Success.